Welcome to Deep Thought. People can find community better in this era. And I was thinking about that. I mean, especially with social media. Now, there's a lot of negativity with social media. They say, oh, something's wrong with social media. It's doing all of this stuff. And I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking, only complaint they have is people, not so much social media is doing something, but it's creating communities that are going away from the mainstream. Some good, some bad, depending on your perspective. But it's giving people freedom. Because think about one thing with social media. You can find somebody like you if you look. You don't even have to look that hard for some people. Now, some others might have to look a bit harder, but it's always something there. In fact, I remember there was a website. It was called Ning, I believe, N-I-N-G, well over a decade ago. I don't even know if it's still around, but you could set up your own community in there. You could set up your own community. And of course, social media. And if you think about it, even YouTube content creators, they create their own communities. Facebook groups, things of that nature. And of course, that can translate into the actual outside world, just having meetups and stuff like that. And they've been having that. In fact, that's something I thought about, well over a couple decades ago, before the birth of my son. And I'm going to bring my son into this for a reason. I saw there was a meetup of picky eaters. A meetup of picky eaters, like they real picky about what they eat. And when my son was born, as he got older, I was like, he's actually very picky about what he eats. Seriously, he's very limited. He don't have like that palate that eats everything. He'll go to a restaurant and order the same thing he ordered at another restaurant. And I say, he's a picky eater, even though people see him and he's stocky, naturally stocky. He really don't eat that much. But it's just like, wow. And speaking of stocky, the way the world is now, people can actually create a community just based on their body builds. Look at something like the fat positivity movement. Look at something like, now there's been some criticism talking about health and everything, but what you have is a developing subculture of people who accept being fat. And somebody else might say, oh, isn't that derogatory to say fat? They use the term. And I ain't saying it in a bad way. Many have embraced it. But they've created a community, And that's a beautiful thing, because I'm going to tell you what, before maybe social media, people could really connect. If you had a certain mindset, you didn't have fellow travelers. You could be in some city and just be by yourself. Let me use an example, and I ain't saying this is a positive example, but I ain't gonna call it negative either. It's the fox and hen house analogy. It depends on which one you are and what's your point of view. But the incel community, it's nothing new. People think it's something new. It's like, no, the community part. There's always been anybody going back, and trust me, I can remember incels back in the 70s. They've always existed. What they didn't have was a way to communicate. And some people could say that's a bad thing, but depends on them. It could be a positive thing. You got fellow travelers. Because, and like I said, it could be anything, your body build, IQ groups. I mean, they always had IQ groups, but you could specifically find somebody. Everybody can find a like-minded person. You have groups out there, you have individuals, everything. And, even a leader, like a content creator or something like that, they can actually create movements. And like I said in a video a couple weeks ago, you can actually, followers, they actually resonate with the leaders. They actually resonate with them, but it's a community. Whenever, it's other people, because one of the saddest things for anyone is to feel like they're the only ones in the world. Even some people in families. And unfortunately, there's some people, for whatever reason, like in the foster care system, orphan system, who don't even have family, right? So that's just powerful right in itself. But then even within a family, you might feel different from the rest of your family. They all practicing one religion, you doing something else. Their quest for education is one, like they don't care about education and you want to be as educated as possible. Seriously, that's a lot of things. A lot of people who have a blood family, they don't click with them. But in this day and age, it's possible to find a spiritual family. And I don't mean in terms of a spiritual religion or spiritual path, but people who are on the same page, who have the same mindset. And some groups are big, some are small, some can be really small. That example I used of the picky eaters, it was just a small group, but they could at least relate. Because one of the things with all people, we want to relate. We want to relate. We want to feel like somebody else understands what we're going through. I don't care what it is. Let me use an example from the comic books. Superman. Yeah, he's strong and consensusly handsome, big old Boy Scout, superhero. Everybody admires him, but he could probably be one of the loneliest people. Why? How many other people can fly? And I'm dead serious. Or how many other people could bench press a cruise liner, a cruise ship? And somebody might think it, but hold up, I want y'all to think about that for a second. We all want to share deep down. Even some people who call themselves loners, deep down we want to share our experiences. We want to talk with somebody about it. Using that Superman example, every now and then he might want to talk about flying through the air and got to duck some birds, insects getting in his face. I mean, let's just be real, or just the feeling of being free like that, floating around. You want to share that, That's why you have many groups. It's activity groups. You might have a group of skydivers. They just like jumping out of planes, or a group of bikers, a group of hikers, a community of people who just like to watch birds, go into the woods and bird watch and just observe them. You have different things. Shoot, deer hunters. Everybody wants to feel that. And one thing in this era, which is really beautiful, some people don't like it, but those are the theys who want to control the herd. The thing that's beautiful is you can find a like-minded person. And I don't mean in terms of like a romantic relationship. That can happen too, actually, if you find that community. Indeed, hold up. I wasn't going to touch on that, but I've met plenty of, people who will live what's considered alternative lifestyles. And usually when they mate with someone similar. Like I have a good friend who works as a waitress at a local store, at a local restaurant rather, and she's covered in tattoos. Who's her boyfriend? A tattoo artist. But that's a community too, the tattoo community. There's plenty of magazines that talk about it. It's a culture there. I remember I was in a store one time, and a bookstore, and I was just looking at one of those tattoo magazines. And I don't have any tattoos, because one thing about me, I say my scars are my tattoos. And I'm going to get into that scar thing in a second. But, there was a young lady, heavily tatted, and she just said, "Oh, you like that art? You have art?" I say, "No, I'm just looking through this." But that could be a community, because they have tattoo expos. And what I said about the scar thing, you never know. If I look, is there a community of people who are just proud of their scars? And in this day and age, it's possible. And if it doesn't exist, somebody might say, well, you know what? I'm going to start a group like that. I'm going to start a YouTube channel just talking about scars and stuff. I mean, it's so much. And look, whether or not you agree with the community or not, seriously, and we're not going to agree with everything. We don't need to. As long as they don't mess with us, just let them live. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful that you can find like-minded people. And every single person needs that. Every single person. I had a dear friend whose birthday, was a couple of days ago. She works with special needs children. And a couple of days ago, from when I'm recording this, she worked with special needs children and adults. That's a big thing for her. And she was saying how even within that group, they have a certain community, certain culture, certain dances and everything. You know, everybody can find something. That's the beauty of it. For those who feel like they can't, well, you know what? Even people who call themselves loners, like you have some people, men who call themselves Sigma males. There's communities, actual communities for that. So no matter what it is, and that's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful, seriously, it is so beautiful. Because not a single one of us, as humans, we feel the need for a tribe. We feel the need, we have a need for a tribe, and that's very important. We have to have that tribe. We have to have those people who are our spiritual family. You know, they are like-minded. And indeed, you got many people who might be a part of several different tribes, and that's beautiful. All right? So, anyway, that's one beauty. That's one of the beauties of everything happening. I know some people, like I say, especially with something like social media, a lot of people like to say, find the negative stuff, but I'm like, well, yeah, but everything got a good point to it, and that's one of the great points. You can find a like-minded person, all right? A like-minded group. So that's all I have for today. I want y'all to think about it and think about the communities that you encounter. Think about what I just said. It's a beautiful thing. It is so beautiful. Whether or not I personally agree with it or what your community is, it's irrelevant. It's beautiful that you have somebody that thinks along the same lines as you do. All right? So anyway, that's all I have for now. I'll get back with you. Finally, get back with you. Peace.